Just what I was hoping for.
Parking, again?
The top. No, on the right. Well, the other one's too, I think, too, actually. Okay, it's 7 o'clock already.
Yeah, I'm
Hold
doing
on, please, just a minute.
What are we
I'm
missing? Oh, we're missing.
scrambling trying to.
That's hard to see.
It should have already been on. I turned it on.
I think that's the first thing. She's coming.
Oh,
My anniversary day.
Congrats. She put up with you how many years now? 36. Wow.
thanks.
She probably like it 10 years ago.
I don't think that's true.
Mark,
So it's not on the agenda, we have to sit and listen, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Thank you for doing it, and move on.
chicken debacle.
That's how it works.
I know.
You can't really do more because it's not. Here's what cracks me. Parking this time, they don't keep like they did.
That's right. I remember that.
But,
Last quick question, when you coming out to play with
Because
us?
I have to. Because I want to.
yeah.
Just turn it off that way, it's not a problem. There we go. Bye-bye.
Tammy, where's the on button over here? There we are.
Sure you want the on button?
No, not really, but.
How many hour?
Who doesn't?
Okay, good, so it's not just me, huh?
No, I went to the internet with the link. I have it up if you want me to. Bigger keys.
The new ones?
The one for tonight. This is the one for
Why
tonight.
can't I get
No, no, it's not on there. I went through the link, the email, onto the web.
Plus it's spelled right.
So if you want to go through links.
Sometimes when it does it, we get a word there, it's
Okay.
negotiable.
I might.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Okay, I might.
Okay, we're ready.
Are we ready? Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everyone to September 7th City Council meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, let's have roll call, please.
Councilmember Crumick?
Here.
Councilmember Ballinger?
Here?
Councilmember Swift?
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Legero?
Here?
And Mayor Alves?
Here. Okay. Let's see what we're going to do tonight. We're going to start off, it looks like, with the consent calendar. These items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or a member of the public for special consideration. Do I have a motion?
Yeah. Mayor Els, regarding item number 2, I will be abstaining from voting on check numbers 9809 and 75807.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. No, wait, I didn't hear Peter. What did Peter say?
Peter, your vote on the consent?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we got 5. Thank you.
0.
All right. And we're going to move down here to staff communications.
Sorry, I have no staff communications tonight.
All right, well, that makes that
Dominique has some.
I just have one. So I know that council has been, aware we've sent off a few letters regarding SB 9, which had to do with the multiple units being built on single-family residential zoning districts. And it was passed, SB 9, and so I wanted to just let you know that a statement was made from the executive director and CEO from the League of California Cities, that they were very disappointed in the passage of SB 9 and urge Governor Newsom to veto this flawed legislation. SB 9 empowers developers, usurps local democracy, silences community voices, and fails to guarantee affordable housing. The by right approval scheme created by SB 9 circumvents the important local government review process that includes extensive public engagement And because there are no provisions that require new housing to be affordable, these new units will remain out of reach for many working-class families. California cities are taking significant steps to bring down the high cost of housing in our communities. By the end of 2022, all of the state's major regional governments, including cities, will have identified and planned for more than 2 million units of additional housing statewide. Rather than passing flawed legislation like SB 9, state lawmakers should instead work with local governments to provide the tools and resources to streamline local housing approvals and fund real affordable housing. So just wanted to give you an update. And then just a reminder, our request for qualifications for our senior housing project will close September 17th, and so I will follow up with you on that Monday meeting and advise how many proposals we received.
Very good, thank you. Is there any,
Thank you.
gentlemen, any feedback on that?
I do. Dominique, a quick question regarding SB 9. I do believe somewhere reading in the text of it that what they want municipalities to do, governing bodies of municipalities to do, is to ministerially approve any of those changes. You know, let's say if somebody comes in, I want to go ahead and, you know, I want to take advantage of SB 9, I want to, you know, subdivide and all that good stuff, that the state's desire would be for us to ministerially approve it, which basically means we don't have any say in it, but they kind of sort of want us to give our blessing. And I've never understood, I'd like to know what leeway we have, because if they want us to ministerially approve something that we don't believe in, what happens if we don't?
This is where our city attorney needs to get some advice and also some legal counseling.
I mean, I haven't read it completely, but yes, it's a rubber stamp, it's ministerial. I think the state legislature has gone beyond caring about what the local entities believe. It changes statewide. So, I mean, if passed, I'll review it again to see if
It
there's.
is passed.
Well, it hasn't been
Signed.
It hasn't been signed officially,
It's
yeah.
not law yet.
Right.
Is there a proposed effective date?
Not that I'm aware
He
of.
has to sign if he's still around. Go ahead.
Well, I think that's why he's holding off on signing or vetoing anything right now. He's waiting for the recall election to play out. But
Hopefully he's not around.
my take is correct, Councilmember Swift. It's going to be a rubber stamp with very minimal oversight that we can do on that.
Yeah, well, if there's any way we can avoid the rubber stamp or the blessing,
I will
like,
look
please
everywhere.
let us know, because I have a
Lots of
feeling.
other cities will be looking at
Yeah.
the ways.
Well, I'm sure we're not the only one.
Right.
So what they typically do is establish the minimum qualification, and so at minimum, we have to follow what they put out, and then anything that's not stated in the law is where we might be able to exercise some type of control. But typically, they address all the issues that fall on the planning side, which is like the setback requirements, not having to get feedback from the surrounding neighbors. Those are the aspects that we like to have the local control for, because we need that
It's our
type of
community.
feedback to know what our community is okay with, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just don't rub salt in the wound. I mean, if you're gonna have it happen anyway, the state, don't rub salt in the wound of our wound by having us saying, okay, I guess we agree. Yeah, sure, do whatever you want, but we're not going to, you know? I mean, you can't coerce us to do something we don't want to do like that. I mean, if it's gonna happen anyway, fine, but don't turn around and ask us, oh, can we have your blessing? Council, you have to give it your blessing.
No, we don't have to.
No.
No, it's another way to see it is they just want us to approve it, similar
Exactly.
to like when an appeals court turns around and says, well, I'm directing you, lower court, to do something. That lower court is actually the one signing it, even though they don't want to sign it, because they thought they were right the first time around. So
Now they're the
that's
bad guys.
essentially what's happening.
Yeah, now we'll be the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so where does that leave us? Are you done?
Yeah,
Well, I did have one
yeah.
follow-up. There were some specific amendments that were made to SB 9 for how it was approved. The first amendment was that the city could deny a project if they can prove adverse input or an adverse impact regarding public health and safety, and we would have to formally, adopt that and put a rubber stamp on that. And then also, the cities may require the applicant for the project to sign an affidavit that they intend to occupy one of the units on the property for up to 3 years. But as we're aware of, and this is what the league explained too, an affidavit has no teeth, so they can sign it and do whatever they want, and that's all we have, so
Only
we
in
can't hold them
America.
to it, so.
I love-
But those were the two amendments that
In
were
California,
changed.
excuse me, wrong America. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience would like to have any input on this item? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so I guess we can move on. Let's move on to matters presented from the audience. The public may address the council on any item that is on the agenda at the time the item is called. The public may also address the city council on any item not on the agenda that is within the authority of the city council. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. The determination of whether an item is within the authority of the city council is discretionary decision made by the mayor. Okay, so here's an opportunity for anyone that would like to get up and speak this evening. We just need your first name. Tell us what's on your mind. These are items that we can listen to, but we can't discuss in terms of resolving any issues because it wasn't agendized. But you're welcome to talk to us about what's on your mind. May you approach anybody, whoever wants to be first, help yourself. There's no tickets here. You just get up and get in line.
Okay, I'm Megan Silva.
Up here, please.
All right, I'm Megan Silva. I'm one of the owners, the other 3 owners are back there, of Escalon Fit. We've been in business on Main Street for, I know some of you up top there don't know this, been in business on Main Street for 5 years next month. We have 11 independent contractor instructors there, 1 manager, and 400 plus members. We also recently opened 2 other businesses in the past few years. We have a Pilates and yoga studio down the street, and Wellness, which is a day spa salon and a boutique, retail boutique. There we have 4 hairstylists. We have 1 RN nurse. She's an injector, med spa owner, 2 massage therapists, 2 estheticians, 1 nail tech, 1 manager, and 2 front desk associates, excuse me. We have hundreds of people coming through the door weekly, and they're coming from as far as Sacramento for services and to shop our boutique. We feel like we've made a really big impact on Main Street and our community. We love this town, we love our community, so I just have a few things that I wanted to address. We lose independent contractors to the fact that they're having to pay a separate business license from the business license that we're already paying. They do not collect receipts. Members and clients don't pay them personally. They're just getting paid from us. They also teach at other places like Studio V in Modesto, along with Ride 209 in Manteca, where they're not required to have their business licenses. And all of them do have their own insurance. That was one item. Out-of-town, high-quality businesses come to Wellness once a year. We do we call it a gift of wellness, but basically invite the community to come for free. They can shop. We bring in vendors like Jewelry by Momta, who's very big in the Modesto community. Anyways, our last one, I want to say we had about 15 vendors come from out of town. They were also charged fee upon fee. We had several people back out and not want to attend because they're feeling like they're getting nickeled and dimed to death. So we're doing the best we can in our part to bring new things that Escalon doesn't have, things that will generate revenue, for our city on a timeline, and it's making me nervous here. So we're hoping that, I know Ed had told me at Park Feet that he could waive that fee one time. If we plan to do this, once a year, I don't know why it maybe needs to be in there. Maybe we can just amend some of these bylaws that have been in here for a very long time. I'm not looking for city growth and house development. I'm looking for supporting our community and the businesses that are here and helping those businesses of small families actually persevere through this small town business. I mean, Ripon is killing it. So I don't know if we need to maybe look at their bylaws. Their ice cream emporium is fantastic. Their downtown Main Street is flourishing. We're finally getting there, but it is so difficult. And I haven't come here but the first time in 5 years. We've talked with Robert Swift a few times. He's invited us to come. COVID hit, and we felt like it was something where we wanted to be present in person. If I still have some time, I'll keep going. Main Street Park use. In the last 5 years, we've been able to use Main Street Park as necessary. I know it's owned by the railroad. In this recent year, every time that we're out there, we're being stopped by the police officers telling us that the city is having us put we have to put the city on our insurance. It's a $200 fee every time we do that. I'm curious what happens when a group of moms come out and they get together and they do a couple jump squats together. Who's putting that on their insurance? The dog people that come, the spay and neuter dog people that meet up out there, are they putting the city on their insurance? I don't think so. So we're just a little confused about how that came about, why that came about, and you know, again, we're trying to get kids outside and moving. We're trying to get adults outside and healthy. So we're wanting to work with the city to do what we can to make a better cohesive relationship. We appreciate the parking lot opening back up. Of all of the people that actually work on Main Street and the members that frequent, we use that parking lot, and nobody gave us any kind of notice that the parking lot would be closed. We would have just loved to send a constant contact out to our members and professionals to let them know. Beyond that, this kind of came to my attention. It's got nothing to do with me, aside from the fact that I love the people that work really hard to be here. Was it a city decision that required a COVID certificate from the food trucks for park feet? There was 2 food trucks there, both were from out of town. We have a lot of local food here. All of these businesses are just coming off of COVID. It was very disappointing to see that. I know Debonni's was one that, if I heard the rumor right, of course it's a rumor, I heard that they were not allowed because they didn't have this COVID certificate. Debonni's for years and years has done nothing but support this town. I have no affiliation with them. I just like to eat their pizza. I also like to give credit where credit is due, and they're a very upstanding business. They do a lot of good for our town, for our sports. So that's basically it.
Okay, Megan, do me a favor and submit that list to the council, which we'll give to the staff, and we'll review it. And we'll try to get some feedback coming someday. But right now, we can't really get into it because it's not agendized. But those are interesting points, and we can address them through the staff. And if you want a response, we can probably send a response to you directly.
Do you want a copy?
Do you have an email address, Megan? Do you have an email address you could share with us? Just a moment, let someone get it down.
I go ahead.
CADAIRYFIT@gmail.com.
Okay.
Also a dairy farmer. The Main Street stuff is the side hustle. So
Okay, well, Megan, before you sit down, I want to tell you about the park feed and who didn't come and food and stuff. As you know, I run the park feed
yes.
with other people involved who do a tough and did a great job due to the COVID problem. A lot of what we ran into was the COVID situation, and then other vendors, the one you actually talked about, was no longer interested when my information comes back to me. So we gave everyone opportunities, but because of the health department restrictions, we were limited in time and a lot of restrictions. So we did the best what we could, what we had.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Anyone else, please?
Thank you.
And thank you for your input. We won't boo you out. You can come up and say whatever you want. Okay, well, we're going to close the, I'm sorry? Okay, we're going to close matters presented from the audience, and we're going to move on to a public hearing, which we have none. Okay, so we're going to move to administrative matters. Staff?
Item number 4 tonight is for the council to consider the solid waste study report and direct staff to proceed with the Prop 218 process. State Senate Bill 1383, short-lived climate pollutants, organic waste, methane emissions reductions, mandates cities, including Escalon, to reduce organic material within its solid waste, recycling, and garbage stream. City of Escalon contracts with Jilton Solid Waste to pick up, sort, and dispose of solid waste within city. Jilton submitted a petition letter requesting extraordinary cost increases as provided within their contract with the City of Escalon. Rate increases for solid waste services are subject to Prop 218 process. Prop 218 was approved by California voters in 1996 and essentially known as the Right to Vote on Taxes Act. And I won't go into all of it, but at the city council meeting of August 23rd, this council accepted Jilton's petition and authorized staff to proceed with the Proposition 218 process and other contract negotiations. As part of the process, a notice advertising the public hearing date, and proposed rates will be mailed to every property owner and tenant based on the most recent tax assessor's roll. Jilton is requesting that the city make the appropriate rate adjustments based on the increased processing costs to capture and divert the highest amount of organic materials from residential and commercial waste streams as required by SB 1383, and incorporate an annual change in the consumer price index. The CPI adjustment initially requested by Jilton in May of 2021 is included in the proposed rates for the January 1st, 2022 billing. Attached to the staff report is documentation on how the rates were proposed. The proposed rates are included in the staff report. And some comparisons with customers. The front lower bin rates did change slightly based on additional requirements within the Cal Recycle proposed, had to do with us asking Jilton to take care of the,
That's not in here.
it was the compost procurement, right?
Right.
That's what changed it in the bins. So then there are additional charges. Below is the breakdown of the current senior customers and the current discount. Staff requests clarification from the council on whether to keep senior rate changes as originally presented with the 90-gallon cart option removed, or to incorporate the 90-gallon can back into the proposed rates. The revenue reduction from increasing the senior discount by $1 on both 60 and 90-gallon carts is approximately $7,000 a year. Staff and the city attorney met with Jilton on September 1st to discuss the proposed amendments to the contract. These amendments are still under discussion, and the contract will be brought to the city council at a future meeting. Staff has brought this report to the council to accept and proceed with the Prop 218 process. If the council accepts the report and directs staff to proceed with the Prop 218 notices, the following steps will be taken. The Proposition 218 notices prepared and mailed out. At least 45 days later from the mailing of those notices, the public hearing will be held, which we are establishing as November 15th. After the public hearing, the protest votes will be counted. If there is no majority protest, the city council can adopt the rates. So staff is asking the city council to accept the solid waste study report and direct staff to proceed with the Prop 218 process.
I would like to review Councilman Legero's comments of the last meeting regarding the alteration of the current contract and the future contract.
What the contract will look like.
We were not in favor, Councilman Legero at the time, or excuse me, Mayor Councilman Legero had brought up some really good issues, and I would agree, and I'd like to review those.
Which issues are in particular are you referencing?
So are you asking specifically about the change and what the contract would look like?
Right. Those changes we talked about in the last meeting, he wanted to eliminate certain things and change them around. He wanted an evergreen contract, which is not uncommon, but he wanted shorter times and different considerations and no caps and stuff like that.
So the contract is not what we're discussing tonight. Tonight is whether we are going to move forward with these rates and the Prop 218 process. We haven't finished our negotiations regarding the contract itself, but we wanted to start the Prop 218 process, which means that we need to confirm that we're going to present these rates, because these rates will go out in the notice.
Right.
What staff wasn't clear on was on the senior rate, whether we were going to make it only apply to 60-gallon cans, or if you were wanting to put back in the 90-gallon can.
Okay, council, do we have any input?
I'm okay with it just being the 60-gallon can.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think I made that motion, and I made it with the intent on just having the 60-gallon can.
Councilman Vice Mayor, you're good?
I'm fine with that.
Peter?
It was just that the numbers, seemed to be about evenly split between those that had 60 and those that had 90. They're getting the same discount, so.
Right.
I think
And,
much of an
and
impact.
it very well could be, a lot of them have the 90, don't even need it, but have had it, so maybe, you know, I mean, I would assume that most, if they're a true senior rate payer, that they probably don't need the 90-gallon can. That's the thought process
A
behind
lot of
it
the comments
also.
we've heard so far are people stating that they don't use the whole can, so they shouldn't be paying because there's only 1 or 2 folks in the household. So that would indicate to us that a 60 can would be sufficient for them, and that's where the discount
And what was
should
the
lie.
discount on the 60?
It's $3, I think.
$3?
Yeah, it was the same discount on both cans.
I see, okay.
It's just that the 90-gallon can has a higher.
And what is a senior in our terms is what?
So we had originally, in the last meeting, we had proposed changing it from 65 to 67, but I'm not sure where the council's support is on that one.
Gentlemen?
I'm still okay on 67, because I think that's what we are also talking about with some of the other senior issues.
Yeah, when we did the RFQ for the senior housing, we put in there an age restriction of 67, and that's where we got that number from.
Let's work on some consistency and keep it at 67 is my idea.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, people are going to be, and already are, very unhappy with the increases that they're seeing. So the more we change and modify things, it's going to just add to the issue. But
So it would only be going forward, it wouldn't be any existing.
the new
Anybody signing up, yeah, moving forward would be the 67.
So, and just to address Ed's comments, this is just taking the contract, extending the contract from a 5-year to a 7-year with a 6-year withdrawal process. Either party can give notice. Instead of 4 years like it's been, it's going to be 6. So there's some CPI adjustments over the course of the contract, but we're trying to accommodate the new, once again, state mandated
Unfunded.
unfunded mandates. We're trying to figure out how to most efficiently and cheaply implement those new requirements. And it just seems like more and more of our job is trying to figure out how to pay for unfunded mandates from the state. So I don't know, we're between a rock and a hard place on this, and looking at what has been proposed by Jilton and what is available to us out there, we feel that this is the cheapest, most efficient way to move forward with it. So with that.
If I could
Okay, thank you.
And if I may provide a little information to the council, we did have a really fruitful meeting with Chilton, where I think there was 10 of us during the meeting on September 1st to work out these different issues. Again, for tonight, what we really wanted to do was get some final numbers in front of you, because we don't want to put numbers out, and then if they have to change, the Prop 218 notice needs to go back out, and we're on a short fuse. So for today, there were some changes in the numbers, so that's the main reason for tonight's. But I could tell the council that we have worked on some of the concerns that the council brought up and the mayor brought up, including, that 2.5, that cap on CPI. We've come to a pretty good resolution on that, which is to keep the cap, but then allow them to. And again, this is just draft form but to update you for the negotiations. Keep the cap, but allow them, if CPI goes above 4%, to allow them to come back and petition the council because of the basically extraordinary increase. That 7.6 we've already worked out. Most likely we'll just leave it as is versus changing that. And that's kind of was the main things that we needed to work on. There's some other wording that we worked out.
I understand what you guys are looking for, but I want to make a couple comments. First comment is, in order to get the discount, you have to sign up for it. It's not automatic. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So if you're interested in getting any discount on your garbage, you need to sign up. You come to City Hall and you sign up for it. If you want to reduce your size, you can. You come to City Hall, deal with that. And as far as the voting process, the 218 is 50% of the houses in this town plus one is what needed to kill this. And if we kill it, then we have to decide how to remedy it. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but this is your state government. This has nothing to do with this local government. This is a mandate that's unfunded and rammed down our throats, and that's what we're dealing with. So that's all I got to say. Now, do you want to vote from us? And the vote is to agree to these posted fees, correct?
Correct, but it should be open for public comment first.
Okay, I was going to get Peter before I went on to the public. Peter, are you around?
Yes, sir.
You have any input?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We'll now open up to the public for any input they'd like to give us. Okay. So if I'm seeing no input from the public, we'll bring it back to the council for a vote. Gentlemen, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that City Council accept the solid waste rate study report and direct staff to proceed with a Prop 218 process.
And that's with, we'll just confirm, that's with leaving the senior discount on 60-gallon cans
Yes.
and at age 67.
Yes.
Correct.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, let's move on to the next item. Staff, we're going to discuss the funding of the future skate park.
Yes, so at the meeting of August 16th, it was requested by Mayor Pro Tem Legero that the discussion of funding for the skate park be put on the next meeting. So therefore, it's on this meeting for discussion. Staff did update the estimated funding available in the Parks and Recreation funds based on the current budget and the last year.
So the reason I asked for this to be put on the agenda is because we've gotten to a point where we did surveys with the community, looked at the community, what they wanted to see recreation-wise in the community, and a flyer went out, and there were 3 items. The top 3 were more parking at the community center, updated bathrooms at the community center, and a skate park. So we created the Park Foundation several years ago to look for funding sources. They've done a Herculean job trying to find funding, raising funds, and trying to come up with the money to build a skate park for the community. Based on my interaction with the Parks Foundation, with the community, plus the results of the questionnaire that went out asking for feedback from the community, I think this is the type of recreational facility that the city should get behind and look at ways to fund. The purpose of having this on the agenda is I'm asking for support, and I'm asking for staff to meet with Park Foundation members to kind of look at the money that they've raised, look at the money that we have available in our rec fund, and come back with a realistic budget on how to complete this project. They have a builder. They've gotten some numbers from that builder. Things change rapidly in the construction world, costs go up, but I think it would be more realistic to have both the Park Foundation and staff work together to try and come up with an actual budget and a type of project that we could see actually come to completion here. So that's my request.
Okay, gentlemen, do we have any feedback for?
Got a question. What would be the ideal time frame for something like this? I mean, this next month?
To meet with staff. The sooner the better, just to start moving forward, whether they're going to be able to sit down at one meeting and come up with a number that can be presented to the council for approval, or if it's going to take a couple meetings to kind of hammer out the parameters of what the budget might look like, and then going back to the builder and saying, hey, this is the number we're looking at. Would this provide the type of facility that we want? They may get together and it says, you know what, there's not enough money available from the city. There's still needs to be some more fundraising to go on to build the type of park that we want. So I think there's just some discussion that has to be had so that we can get a real number, so we're not, talking about a $500,000 project that's not really what we're looking for.
So what you're looking for is a foundation. Try to get an idea what we're in for.
Yeah, what's available on the city side, what's available on the Park Foundation side, what kind of monies are we talking about, and can you build a park that meets what we're looking for and build it for that amount of money? If not, how much money? And then go from there.
Okay. Council, is there any more input?
Those are all really good questions. And the only reason I was asking about time frame is because, we're going to go through a few little bumps here.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering, do we want to throw this at that time? Or do we want to wait until things stabilize, with the staff that we know is going to be here for a little bit? And I don't think we're talking months either. I don't think we're talking years out or anything like that. We might just be talking, I'm just guessing maybe a few months, but I'm just so that we've got a bit more of a
Well,
stability.
I think the conversation could at least start, whether it's, just an initial contact and see how many meetings are we going to have? Is it going to be a one meeting, sit down, here's the numbers, here's what we would present? So, I think it can go forward. I know Tammy's going to have a lot on her plate. I don't know about, if Dominique would be the person to spearhead this or Bridget. So.
She's head of rec.
So,
I think
he
a
would
line
be
of
the
discussion is
designated
good.
person for staff, so.
All right, is there any more discussion here, gentlemen?
No, like I say, just as long as
All right.
we don't want it yesterday.
Let's
That's
ask
all
Peter
I'm-
if you'd
that's
like to
all
chip
I'm
in
saying.
here. Peter, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a good idea. I am in favor of moving it forward. I think that we have done a lot of the groundwork. We've had discussions over the years. We've talked about what funds are available, how much the parks, has raised through the different fundraisers. I do believe that there is a significant amount of community buy-in. Another point is I reached out to the Tony Hawk Foundation. I think it's actually now called the Skate Park Foundation, and they have a grant available that we could apply for. It's not a huge one, but it would help, and they also help with providing plans and direction and getting kind of that name behind the project. I think there's value in that. And also, I think we need to understand that this project doesn't have to be, kind of break the bank kind of thing where we have to tap fully a fund. There are lots of options for very nice skate park designs that I think would work well. Another point is I think an apprehension is that, skate parks can bring in the wrong element, but I think those are unfounded. There is evidence that skate parks actually will reduce certain incidences or crimes in town, if you will. Not that there's many now, but because it does give the young people an outlet. And you don't just think about skateboarders. There's, you can ride your scooter there. I've taken my kids many times to the Ripon skate park, and it's amazing. And there's, a lot of activity there, exercise, things to do outside. So I'm 100% behind this, and I appreciate Jeff pushing to move it forward, because I do think it's got thrown on the back burner. So I would like to see this thing move forward with an actual plan. Let's get a meeting again with the foundation, and let's find a way to move this thing forward.
All right, Peter, thank you. All right, now that we've had the council input, let's take it out to the public here. Anyone in the audience would like to speak on this issue, come to the podium, give us your name, please. And you have 5 minutes max. Boom.
Well, thanks for that. Kurt Danziger. I'm not for or against the skate park. I think that would be fine. My curiosity here is how the process is going from where it was to where you want it to go. Is this a city-funded skate park, or is this a park foundation skate park? I looked at the bylaws, I looked at the incorporation. There's supposed to be meeting minutes, financial reports, directors appointed by the city manager. Haven't seen any of that over the last 10 years. So I'm not gung-ho on using city money till we find out exactly how this foundation is actually working. How much money do they have in the bank now over the last 10 years? What is that?
Well, there's members of the Park Foundation here that can probably address those, any of the questions that you have.
Well, the issues that came up in 2019 were if the city to take over this project, we're going to pay prevailing wage, we're going to have ADA, all kinds of different things that are going to add to these costs. And that's like any project. So when you're having your discussion, I think you need to decide who's better to run it. Is it Park Foundation that's accumulated a little bit of money, don't even have a design, and don't know how much it's going to cost? Or do you let the city do it, and you go through the process that the city would be doing it? You know, a budget, during the budget session. And that's my point of view. I'm not here to discuss whether we should have a skate park or not, but what's the process going forward? And right now, we haven't got an MOU that's signed by Park Foundation. We don't know who's in charge. We don't have any minutes of any of these meetings that are going on. So, you know, I'm confused why you want to have a discussion about something that may not even exist. That's what I have to say. Thank you for my 3 minutes.
Just to clarify, they have a location, they have a plan, and they've been fundraising based on that. At this point, looking at the original thoughts behind a park foundation, it was created to be a nonprofit to go out and raise funds for this. It's clear over the years that finding that person that would donate or that entity that would fund it doesn't necessarily exist in this community, unlike Mislin and Ripon. We've tried looking at grants. The Parks Foundation has looked for grants. Our median income is too high to qualify for a number of those grants, for any of those grants. They've hired grant writers. They've looked for people that can seek out the grants to try and find that funding. So the decision is at some point, we as a council have to listen to the community and what the community wants. We also look for opportunities when we're going to fund something and we're going to build something to look for how do we leverage those funds. The way I see this is you've got a nonprofit out there that is doing fundraising, trying to raise the money to build a skate park, and they'd like to do it on their own because it would save us prevailing wages, ADA compliance, and a lot of other things that may come into play. The problem is, how long are we willing to wait for that? How long are we willing to wait for that person or that entity to step up and donate the money? I'm not willing to wait anymore. I want this to be a joint effort between the city and the Park Foundation to utilize what recreation funds we have, leverage those dollars with the dollars the Park Foundation has raised to try and get this done. And that's based on the input I've received from the community, working different fundraisers, being out and about, listening to people give us feedback about what they want in the community. There are limits to what we're willing to spend, and there are limits to the kind of design that we can have. But I think the purpose behind this conversation is to figure out what does the Park Foundation have, what does the city have, and then to bring it back to council for a decision on how we want to move forward, if we want to move forward at all. But I think based on the information that I've received over the years, this is a community that has kids donating their Christmas money, their birthday money, parents tired of having to drive out of town to go to a skate park in Oakdale, Ripon, Riverbank, you name it. Every jurisdiction around us has one. And then when you couple that with sending out a request for the community's feedback on what they want, and they tell us they wanted more parking, they wanted better bathrooms, and a skate park. I think as a council, we need to listen to that and find a way to move forward.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this matter?
Mike Sipes with the Escalon Parks Foundation. There's been a couple of comments I'd like to just clear the air on today. One is we went through, well, first of all, the board is comprised of a number of business professionals in various sectors. I myself have been in construction for 32 years. Tom and I worked together on the request for proposal process. We outlined a very transparent process in which bidders were given a set of criteria, and then we evaluated them from a best value standpoint, not only from a cost, but an overall design concept, fit and finish. That process has been completed in excess of 4 years ago. We selected a contractor to perform the scope. We've engaged that contractor. We paid them for the design, which we have a current design, and we have a not the most current price, but we have a price based on that design. And it's been based on input from a large group of people, not just a handful of people from the Parks Foundation. All of that information has been available to the city. We've offered that multiple times. As Jeff mentioned earlier, we spent probably 2 years looking for grants. Peter, if you know somebody at the Tony Hawk Foundation that can actually approve the grant, that would be great. We've actually got that same grant that we applied for probably 3 years ago that was denied. But we do have a design. The design is malleable. Construction costs are up significantly. We don't have an accurate price on, we don't have an accurate price today from Dreamland on what the cost would be, knowing what I speculate to be true. We're probably up somewhere around another 15% from the last time we updated the budget. Like I said, we have engaged a certain company. Be happy to sit down with anybody the council designates for us to go through this with. We can look through what we've done. We can look through what we have in place. And we'll be happy to sit down and try to find a way to work with our selected contractor to build the most efficient park that suits the demands of the city. And then the comment of the MOU, that's been discussed multiple times. There's been multiple iterations of it. There's been a lot of back and forth negotiating. We ultimately decided about a year ago to cease the process of the MOU because it was time-stamped, and since there was no clear path forward with the park, it seemed pointless to put an MOU in place. So we're dressed and ready to go as much as we can be. Like I said, we don't have accurate pricing as of today, but I don't think that would take long for Dreamland to get put back together. The only issue that I see that really has a major impact is the prevailing versus non-prevailing wage option. Not sure which way is the most efficient to work through that. And as far as the contracting entity that's going to manage the process, it's a specialty item. I don't think having the city manage constructing a specialized park like this is in the best interest of the park itself. Probably have to leave it in the hands of the experts that do this for a living. So, any questions?
Not for me.
Yeah, actually, one question. Speaking of the building costs, so what do you think? Because I think it sounds like what we want to try to do is trying to get an updated ballpark figure as what we're looking at, right, cost-wise? So, you being a construction, have you heard anything out there? I mean, are these building prices going to eventually level out and moderate within a year or two? Or, and the reason I'm asking that is, do we take a snapshot now, or do we take a snapshot later, or maybe you take a snapshot now and hopefully it'll be a better number later? I don't know. What do you think?
I think what they're trying to do is sit down and try to figure out what the heck's going on and then come back to us with a number. Because I don't think anybody knows right now. I think that's not what you said. Basically, we're kind of waiting to get it all figured out a little better before we commit to a number.
Yeah, we can certainly ask Dreamland to update their quote. I've done so based on the knowledge I have of the construction industry, but they would be the company that we'd be asking to perform that scope, so it's more appropriate for them to weigh on what their costs are. My personal opinion is some of the major components to the project, the reinforcing steel, the coping steel, the cap steel. There's market indices. That's my primary order of business is steel. We don't see it coming down anytime in the near future. There's a lot of factors in play behind that. Concrete is up. Concrete never goes back down. It always just continually it's on a continual rise year over year, 3 to 4%. Lumber was up over the summer, but it was fictitious buying. It's back down almost to where it was prior to COVID. It is up from when we had this quoted, but I don't expect it's going to soften much more. Outside of that, you're talking about labor, which continues to go up, and you're talking about equipment rentals. So The major input measures of the cost increases, I think, are going to be, the reinforcing steel and the concrete, and then, of course, the labor. There's about $100,000 swing between prevailing wage and non-prevailing wage, at least from my perspective.
Hunk of money.
Yeah. So that's the best I can tell you. I wish I could shake up my crystal ball and I could tell you what prices for steel we're going to do, because I didn't find a lot more of it.
And this might be a dumb question, but labor-wise, that's a lot of cement, a lot of, to be poured. Some of this stuff, you're right, you're gonna have to have Dreamland skilled people to do it. But I'm just wondering how much of this can actually be a volunteer effort? I mean, am I thinking pie in the sky here, or what do you think?
One of the additional reasons that we selected Dreamland was because they were one of the only firms that was open to allowing volunteer efforts, be it equipment or labor resources, or, just people to give, anything they could, tools, lumber, whatever.
Sure.
Most of the other companies were not open to that. They wanted to control that process. There is a limit, and there are certain scope items, like, for example, finishing the swales and the bowls, that they're just like, yeah, that's our trademark, that's what we do. We can't trust that some guy that wants to help on a Weekend Warrior is going to be able to do that scope.
That makes sense.
But there's a lot of items that they can, they are willing to accept, donations for. We had started going down that road and figured that we had, I don't know, somewhere around maybe 20 to 25% of what our anticipated costs were that we thought we could generate from just donations, people contributing within the community. We've had a number of people over the years that have come up to the wine booth or the fireworks booth and said, hey, I've got a backhoe in my backyard. I'll give it to you guys for a couple months. Or this guy said, I'll spend every weekend out there with you guys helping. I'm a concrete finisher. I can help with flat work. We've had all those types of offers over the years. So there is an opportunity for that. But I think to Jeff's point, I think the best thing that we can do at this point is to contact Dreamland, have them update their number based on the design that we have, and then sit down, look at the new numbers, decide where our dollars and cents are. I think, Tom, are we at about $100,000 right now?
We're
$81,000. So we have $81,000
Pretty impressive.
in the bank right now. And like I said, we've already engaged and paid some monies to Dreamland. But the best thing to do would just path forward to get our numbers updated, look at what that plan is, and if there's differences and we need to cut back or we can add or we can change, modify, then I think that's the purpose of us sitting together. I do not quite understand why the ADA requirements are tied into this. This is a skate park it's a new structure that's going to be ADA compliant to begin with. Well, sort of. I guess it's a skate park, so it's not.
The ramp's already built in.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure what else there is. It's an isolated location. There's no ADA access or ingress or egress requirements around the facility that I'm.
Probably dealing with the bathroom issues if they're going to have are they going to have a separate facility for that?
No.
So I'm not sure what else, unless it's railing or something. Get up and down from, is it level with the land, is it above the land, stuff like that?
I think the intent was that it was level, largely
Okay,
level.
well, then there's going to be little probably, if any.
Parking, I think, was
Parking is
another
another
part
one.
of the ADA,
We're going to
yeah.
have to deal with the parking, handicap parking.
And the pathway from the parking to the facility. Yeah.
So there are a few things probably.
And by the way, and that's why I think that, to Mayor Pro Tem's point about starting this discussion, yeah, I mean,
Identify all the
it's
items.
supposed to be going where we have the overflow parking lot now. Okay, so probably don't want to get rid of that. Where do we put it in terms of the senior facility? We
That's my
probably don't want to do
question
that. There's a way to work this out, but yeah, it's, to your point, probably ought to be a good time to work it out.
Well, and that's one of the few, this particular project, and the overflow parking was one of the few items that the lessee is willing to move forward on, so it's a matter of moving trees. So I appreciate the work that's been done on this. I just think at this point, it's time to have a conversation with the city and see what we can come up with funding-wise and see if we can get this thing done.
Okay, then. Anyone else like to come up this evening and speak to this subject? Your name, please?
Fox, 1510 Adriana. One once again, I'm not opposed to a skate park. I agree with Councilman Crumick. I think that's a good thing to have, but not a Taj Mahal skate park. I think there's one, if you get the discussion going, can be done that would be able to accommodate the amount of individuals going to be using the skate park wherever it may be. We're talking about the cost. It's gone up. And if you do recall, just 2 short years ago, does anyone recall what the price tag of a 10 by 10, 10,000 square foot skate park?
Well, I don't think that was a realistic number at $500,000. And that's the purpose of this, is to say, okay, everyone's kind of shooting from the hip. You know, this is what we want, this is where it's going to be funded. This is going to be more of set the budget and build to the budget. And that way, we aren't building a Taj Mahal that we can't afford or, you know, can't fund.
Yeah, well, but with the parking and the design that Dreamland did, the figures were there.
Depends on who you talk to.
What were the figures? 2 years ago that they estimated?
Well, the numbers I recall went from about 300,000 to 500,000 by the time we were done talking about it.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody actually worked those numbers up to come up with that amount. It was a guesstimate on what we think based on prevailing wage or whatever.
So that's my point. Back to whatever the cost was or is, I mean, you can go online and just basically do a generic cost of the average skate park. My issue is, why build a big one when we don't really need a big one? And I just mentioned it could be done in phases. But anyway, I'm glad the discussion is here. It'd be nice to get some rock solid figures, what it's going to cost the citizens of Escalon and what it looks like. Because as of 2 years ago, we just left it at that. So,
yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Sure, go ahead. Name, we need your name, please.
Oh, yeah, Tom Murphy.
Thank you.
And treasurer for the Parks Foundation. And I just want to encourage council to move forward with the process. I look at the construction budget. I know it's out of date, but if I look at it, half of it's materials cost and roughly the other half is labor. And the labor, we can't control that much. But the materials we can. And I know material costs are high right now, but the other thing is there's a lot of economic activity right now. And these businesses that are selling these materials are doing quite well. And they're in a position where they are going to be more motivated to donate those products to our project now than they would be if we were in a down cycle. And so I think in terms of timing, the timing's right now. And I'd encourage you to move forward. And if so, I look forward to working with the staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Now, again, it's at a point now where if we set a budget, we have a target. We know what's available. We know what can be done. We can reach out to vendors, suppliers, see what they're willing to do to accomplish, this park. So I think now is the time to have that discussion, see what's available, put it together, come up with a number, and then work off of that number. It's been reversed for a while. We've had a target. This is what we'd like to see done. This is what we envision. And it's been a target trying to raise money to build that. So here, there's some flexibility in the plan. There's some flexibility in donations. So once we set that number, I think it's going to solve a lot of these issues and a lot of the issues about the cost. How much are we willing to spend to build this, and what are we going to get at the end of it? So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, let me ask a question.
Oh, go ahead.
What is it we're going to do now after we've had this little encounter? Are we going to have a motion this evening? Or is it direction of staff? What are we doing?
Well, it'd be direction of the staff, but, staff needs to understand, The only place that we have money for the park is in this Park and Recs monies. And so this number is an estimate about what will be in that fund at the end of the year. So the numbers that have been, presented before and previously, we aren't really close to those numbers. I don't know where we could find other funds to be able to, how do we establish a budget when we don't have those funds, I guess is my struggle.
We're not going to be talking about any financial commitments, though, tonight, are we?
No.
No.
We're going to explore.
But, I mean, in order for staff to meet and try to set a budget, we do have to understand,
Well, you can't set a budget. What we can do is look into what we have to offer and then discuss that. Isn't that kind of where it goes?
Yeah,
well, I thought that's, the direction was that we work with them to establish the budget for the project.
I think the cost of the project, not so much the budget.
right.
Let's work on their side to get the numbers first.
Yeah, I don't think we have to come up with a budget. I think we need to come up with an understanding of what we're dealing with, and then we're going to circle around and try to figure out how we're going to get to that point. I think that's where
Or
we're
if there's
going.
changes to the park that need to be
Yeah,
made, if we
yeah.
don't have the funds.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he's asking for, and if I understand it correctly, is we want to do a investigation of what we've got going, try to figure out what it is we need to get it done, and then try to, once we've established all that, try to figure out how the funding is going to come around. And if we can't find the funding, what we can do to eliminate certain aspects of it to get the funding in line. Well, those are the types of things I think we're going to have to look into. But as far as a budget, I don't think that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a outline of what we're dealing with and what it's going to cost us, and then we're going to try to find out where the funding's coming from. Isn't that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, and those conversations need to be had between the Park Foundation and the city to get a realistic handle on, okay, whatever the proposed, end of year funds are going to look like in the Parks and Rec.
Where does that leave us?
Yeah. Are they earmarked? What are they going to be used for? Where does that leave us as far as any remaining balance? What are we going to do with that? Are we going to invest it in a skate park? Are we going to do this over a 2-year period? Are we going to phase this thing in and build phase 1 and phase 2? There's a lot of options, but we have to be realistic about how this thing is going to get funded.
And also a timeline.
And it's, yeah, we don't want to drag this out for.
Well, I feel more comfortable with these discussions as long as we're not doing any commitment. I do recall what happened, what the sentiment of the audience was a couple of years ago about a large expenditure of the city's funds towards the skate park, and it wasn't well received. That was 2 years ago. I know that, there's always a lot of good feedback, the fireworks booth as well as the wine booth. But I also know there's that other sentiment in town too, that, well, do we need to spend it on this, But I think if you have more of a solid battle plan as to what we're looking at, it always helps. It always helps. So.
Can I chime in real quick?
Of course.
I think what we're talking about in my mind is, well, first of all, how much money do we have right now in the Parks Fund?
So right now, we're estimated at the end of this fiscal year, after we pay for the bathroom, approximately $224,000. That's if revenues come in as projected.
Now, that bathroom thing, have we heard back from them yet?
Yes, it's in the process.
Okay, so how much, 220?
224,000 is what's estimated.
Okay, 224,000 is what the city has in the fund. The Parks Foundation has 81. So that puts, if you were to just put all of that money towards a skate park, that would be,
A little over 300.
what, 300? So 300 grand. So some of the research I did said that, skate parks estimated $50 a square foot for a city of Escalon size. I've heard a 5,000 square foot skate park designed correctly could meet the need. So 50 times 5,000 is $250,000. And if you factor in 25% of that being donated, labor or equipment, et cetera, that brings it closer to 200,000. So I think we have the money. And I think so that's one thing, is do we have the money? I think we do. The second thing is, what structure would it be, the MOU with the Parks Foundation? I think the Parks Foundation should be in charge of the project if that's going to help us do it more affordably and avoid prevailing wage. I don't have a problem with that. And the last thing is, how do we move forward? So I think that we should form another commission like we do with 2 city council members to meet regularly with the Parks Foundation, and get all the information and then bring it back to a council meeting. And we should have that council meeting be, not more than a month away at this point.
Councilman Crummage, is that a volunteer I hear for the committee?
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. Do we have another?
I'll do it.
We have 2 that'll be assigned to the committee, working with the foundation and the city to draft something we can all take a look at and figure out what direction we're gonna go. And I would like to direct staff to assist in the process.
So for clarification, the prevailing wage, if the city contributes any funds to it,
I understand.
it's in effect, so.
I understand, but we can look at all those
Yeah.
options. All righty then. Is there any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, we're gonna move on. Anyone in the council, on the audience want to add, or anybody on the phone system or internet that would like to add anything? All right, having no more input, we're gonna move on. And we're gonna move down here to council communications, and we're gonna start with Councilman Swift.
Do I have anything tonight? I do want to give a kudo to a couple of officers yesterday. They were very instrumental in a rather scary situation that luckily turned out for the best, and that was Officer Sharp and Officer Cruz. Please pass a kudo on to them. I know that it spawned a discussion, Chief, between you and I today about the license plate readers in the cars, and I saw firsthand how that can be very, very, right? The license plate, right?
They're coming, yes.
I know, they're going to be coming.
Just to
but
reiterate,
they are coming. They're on the way, and I see how useful they are. So that's a good thing. So anyway, please pass that on to them. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, Councilman Crummage, would you like to add something this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Alves. I think there was some good discussion tonight. Some things that weren't on the agenda but still were important about downtown and what we can do to facilitate helping businesses thrive. And I am all for that and doing what we can. The last thing is, I think it'd be nice, I know that Mayor Alves kind of spearheaded bringing back the Citizen of the Month. I think that's a very nice thing. I would also like us as a city council, city staff, et cetera, to consider an employee of the month for the city. I think that when we show support for the city staff and what they do and how, and that's been very evident to me over these last couple months of things, and how everybody works together, if we can really create that team environment and team atmosphere, that a lot more beneficial things happen for the city. And so I think that we should discuss having recognizing an employee that works for the city of Escalon, council members excluded, to be recognized for their hard work and contributing to the betterment of our town.
Okay, well, that's a recommendation. We'll have a discussion on it another time. I don't know if we can do anything about it tonight, but it's something we can keep on the books and look at it and see what the staff can come up with. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilman Bellinger.
Just real quick, looking forward to the progress on the skate park. I think it is something that is needed in our community. I know that there's a lot of concern with the price tag out there, with a little sticker shock we had a couple of years ago, but I think this is something that we definitely need to drive home and move forward with. Keeping in mind for those folks at home that aren't playing the game along with us, with everything here, if you look at the board that was presented tonight, we spent almost $405,000 on a bathroom for the community center. So spending a few $100,000 on a skate park in grand scheme of things for another community item that the community wants is not that grand of an idea that we're spending money out of control. So just wanted to say, looking forward to that, and we'll see what happens when Jeff and Peter come back with some more information.
Thank you. Councilman Pro Tem?
I appreciate the conversation tonight about the skate park and taking a look at that and looking for a way to actually get that accomplished. And also, it's always troubling to hear people come to the council with issues about fees and costs, and unfortunately, that's what we're in the middle of right now, whether it's the 218 process for garbage or it's water rates. But where we do have control, where we can control our business fees for some of the independent contractors out there, maybe we need to update some things for the modern workforce out there. So that might be something to look at and try and get a handle on that. We want to encourage businesses or people to come in and do their work here and generate income here if we can. So I think that's definitely worth taking a look at. When anybody raises the issue, I think we need to take a look at it and see where we're at. So I would hope to have more conversation on that at some point. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. What's the deal with the parking lot fence now? Did they actually install those chargers or not? What's the story?
They're in the process. I don't think that they're complete yet.
When you say they're in the process, I drove by there. What did they do with all this time the fence has been up?
So they bored across the parking lot to make the electrical
Oh, they did go under?
connection. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's why the parking lot was closed,
Understood.
because it was through the parking lot there.
Okay.
I'm not sure I don't know if Justin if he knows better of what the status of it is. But I'm not sure exactly what point they are in that
My question is, are they
construction.
going to be back doing more work in there, and will they close off the park again?
No, my understanding is that it won't need to be closed off. They'll be able to rope off an area or mark off an area that they're working.
In the future, when we do downtown projects, if we could somehow notify the downtown, I think it'd behoove us.
Of course,
Yeah.
and that, yes, the contractor has been informed of that.
Yeah, because you saw what happens. Okay, regarding Mrs. Silva's questions, could you have a copy given to me when you're done answering those questions, please?
Sure.
Just email it to me.
I'd like that too.
Copy you too, copy
Sure.
everybody. Copy the council, please.
Cancel, yeah.
Thank you. Skate park thing is complicated because it's costly. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think the reason we've not moved faster and quicker is a project manager. We needed somebody, a full-time project manager, and we don't have the money. But a project manager would have moved this thing a lot nicer, and we would have got a lot more data and a lot more substantial evidence of what we could and couldn't do. Unfortunately, like everything in the small community, we do everything as best we can through volunteers. And unfortunately, with volunteers, you can't complain about them because they're volunteering. And unfortunately, volunteers don't have the time that a project engineer would have. So while doing these types of projects, sometimes we maybe should reconsider, actually, it's better to maybe put a little money out there and get a project manager, because in the long run, you'd be done and you might save money. So something to think about, because this thing here it's a big project. It's going to benefit the community for those people who want to be into it. And according to what I've heard, there's a lot of people. So I'm in favor of getting it going as well. I give a lot of credit to those people that have put $81,000 in the bank. It's a lot of money. I may not seem like a lot of money to some people. To me, that's a lot of money. And I think those people that dedicated their time to earn that money for the project should be recognized and thanked as well. As far as the senior discount on these garbage cans, I don't think the public's aware of the fact they have to sign up for it. So in the next mailer, would you please put in the mailer to the water bill that they are entitled to that if they want it, and how to deal with that? In other words, coming down and dealing with it. It's something that should be publicized. It shouldn't be guessing. These people are entitled to whatever.
We do it once a year.
Do you?
In the
I've never
newsletter.
seen it, so I never knew it existed, but that's good to know. But it should be out there where people can see it and take full advantage of those opportunities, because there are some people in this community that aren't rolling in the dough. I think that pretty much covers what I had to say for this evening. We're going to retire to a closed session, so we're going to do that now. One thing before I leave, what is the status on your situation?
I mean, I appreciate the free parking spots that were given. I was just nice to see, the matters that were brought up at the last meeting as far as possible renovations on Center and Roosevelt. That was just kind of out there, or if that's actually gonna get going. So I was just here to see if it was still on the agenda, or if we were moving forward.
What I recommend is you come down tomorrow and speak to the staff about it, because we can't deal with it right now, but I just want to get an update kind of where it is going on. So if you can either make a phone call to either Dominique or the city manager, and maybe they can give you some information regarding what the status is, because I don't know, and we're not in a position to talk about it right now. Okay? So we're going to close the meeting and retire to a closed session. Thanks for everyone coming. All right, let's go, guys.
That's $200,000 for that bathroom, $200. Now, we get like that for this kid.